For the longest time, a Norse presence in North America was considered purely legendary. But this all changed in the 1960s with the archaeological discovery at Lent and Meadows in present-day Newfoundland. Despite the discovery of the archaeological site giving irrefutable evidence of a Norse presence in North America, the saga sources are still considered to be unreliable by researchers. The sagas were mostly written in Iceland during the late Middle Ages, and chronicled events in Norse history centuries after they occurred. Oftentimes, the sources for the sagas were based on oral traditions that had long since fused legend with fact over the centuries of oral transmission. However, scientific findings of the last 60 years since the groundbreaking discovery at Lent and Meadows seem to at least confirm the truthfulness of some of the events talked about in the sagas. In particular, events that involve descriptions of a mysterious land the Norse referred to as Vinland. A land that researchers are certain today is modern-day Newfoundland, Canada. According to the Greenlander saga, at around the same time in the 980s AD when Eric the Red was getting his colony in Greenland going, an Icelander named Bjarni Herjolfsson and his men saw an unknown coastline while lost in the seas southwest of Greenland. Bjarni and his crew debated among themselves what the land might be, but all they could conclude was that it was certainly not Greenland. They decided against venturing toward the unknown land and eventually found their way back home. Several years later, in around 1000 AD, Leif Erikson purchased Bjarni's ship and purposely set sail looking for the new land spotted by Bjarni, intending to colonize it. Upon arrival to the unknown land, Leif Erikson divided the newly found region into 3 parts and gave each of them a name: Helluland, Markland, and Vinland. Most researchers consider Helluland to be what is today known as Baffin Island, and consider Markland to be what is known today as Labrador. South of Helluland and Markland is Vinland. Researchers consider it very likely that Vinland is present-day Newfoundland. With winter setting in, Leif Erikson sheltered in Vinland by building a colony. Sometime later, Thorvald Eriksson, a brother of Leif's, also sheltered for a winter at Vinland. When summer came around, Thorvald and his men sailed south, continuing to meet no people, but seemed to have come across a trace of human presence in the form of a wooden structure that they surmised was used to hold grain. Another summer later, they traveled north, hugging the Markland coast, while exploring the region's fjords, before deciding to dock his ship and explore the land on foot. On their way back, they spotted 3 odd rounded-shaped objects in the near distance. On closer inspection, the humps revealed themselves to be 3 boats made from dried animal skins, turned upside down, underneath which slept 9 men. 8 of the 9 men were killed by the Norse, after some struggle, while the remaining surviving man fled in one of the animal skin boats. Shortly thereafter, a fleet of skin boats was spotted heading towards them. The skin boats were likely about 20 feet in length and could carry 3 men each. Thorvald and his men boarded their ship and prepared to attempt to defend themselves. The Norse successfully defended themselves using the sides of their ship, shields, and oars to deflect projectiles and close-quarter blows from the attackers' weaponry. If the skirmish was typical of a Norse naval engagement, Thorvald and his men would have thrown large rocks from over the sides of the ship and shot spears and thrown arrows, all of which would have easily destroyed the skin boats and killed many of the attacking men. The battle was very swift, as the attackers engaged the Norse's shipborne shield wall for a while before fleeing as fast as they could. Despite the clear technological advantages, the Norse still sustained 1 casualty in the form of Thorvald taking an enemy arrow in the stomach. Thorvald seemed to know that his arrow wound would be lethal, as he asked to be buried in a specific place of grandeur that he had seen in the unknown land area that they had stumbled upon. In the same saga, Thorvald Eriksson, as he lay dying, withdrew the arrow from his stomach and muttered, "We have won a fine and fruitful country, but will hardly be allowed to enjoy it." Soon afterwards, Thorvald succumbed to his wounds and was buried according to his desires. Thorvald's men fled to Vinland and then eventually to Greenland during the next spring. Thorstein Eriksson, upon learning of his brother Thorvald's death, set off for Markland in an attempt to get Thorvald's body. However, his ship became mired in storms and was unable to make contact with the westerly lands. Sometime later, a wealthy Icelander by the name of Thorfinn Karlsefni and a large group of warriors under his command set off to colonize Vinland. Upon arrival, he sheltered for the winter within the structures Leif Erikson had constructed. At around this time, Thorfinn's wife Gudrid gave birth to a child, whom they named Snorri. This child became the first known European child born in the New World. When summer came around, a large group of men emerged from the surrounding forests, wanting to trade their furs and pelts for weapons. Karlsefni disallowed this, perhaps fearing the unknown peoples could use the weapons against him and his men, and instead they traded the men milk. Many of the men drank the milk during the exchange. When the next spring season came around, the men reappeared wanting to trade again. During the transactions, one of these men was slain while trying to steal the Norse's weapons. To Norsemen like Karlsefni, the numbers of the native inhabitants seemed endless, and there was a clear feeling that no matter their technological edge, they were hopelessly outnumbered. Karlsefni knew he had to come up with a clever plan in order to offset the native inhabitants' numerical superiority. The plan that was decided upon was to lure a sizable amount of enemy warriors into a trap. Karlsefni and his men began clearing out the trees from a sizable area of the forest nearby. When they finished, they then placed a bull of theirs at the start of the clearing within the forest. 10 Norsemen were then chosen as bait and told to make themselves be seen and to allow themselves to be chased until the enemy had been lured into the trap. A little while later, in apparent retaliation, the men re-emerged from the forest and attacked Karlsefni's camp. The sagas do not give the reader any details about the battle or its outcome. However, assuming the battle had taken place on the terms of the Norse, the battle would have begun with the small group of Norsemen racing back to the clearing in anticipation that they were being pursued. As the enemy vanguard set foot upon the clearing, they would have been momentarily distracted or startled by the sight of the bull. According to the sagas, the native inhabitants were scared of a large bull they saw in the Norse encampment while they engaged in trade. The beast roared in its pen, frightening the native inhabitants even more. They seemed to have no familiarity with the animal. The Norse certainly noticed this and incorporated this experience into their defensive tactics. With the enemy warriors distracted, the Norsemen at the other end of the clearing would have unleashed a brief but dense hail of spears upon them. With the spears spent, other Norsemen would have formed a shield wall and begun striding towards the enemy forces. Karlsefni would have advanced with his own shield wall behind the vanguard as he shouted orders to his men. According to the sagas, the battle ended when the enemy warriors melted away back into the forest after sustaining heavy casualties. Though the Norse were victorious in their first major battle with native inhabitants, the Norse only stayed for one more winter in Vinland before leaving back to Greenland the following spring. According to Eric the Red's saga, Karlsefni is quoted to have said, "Though the quality of the land was admirable, there would always be fear and strife dogging them on account of those who already inhabited it." Sometime afterward, Freydis Erikstotir attempted to colonize the area of Vinland. Though no natives of the area were encountered this time around, the settlers feuded with each other to such an extent that they all abandoned Vinland after only just one winter. After these failed attempts at colonization, the Norse over the ensuing 3 centuries may have only made occasional journeys to Labrador. Backing this up is a passage dated at 1347 AD from the Icelandic Annals, giving an account of a Greenlandic ship heading to Markland that ended up getting thrown off course due to a storm and thus ended up in Iceland. The saga sources up until fairly recently were still seen as entirely legendary in nature. However, recent scientific discoveries are supporting many aspects of the saga's accounts of Norse forays into North America. Researchers believe that the name Vinland, which translates the land of vines, could very well be related to Lance Meadows and the surrounding area, as wild grapes did exist in the Gulf of St. Lawrence during the 10th and 11th centuries AD. The presence of food remains like butternuts indicates that the Norse probably ventured further south to acquire them, as they do not grow naturally north of the region that is now present-day New Brunswick. Therefore, Vinland could have actually been the entirety of the areas surrounding the Gulf of St. Lawrence. The Norse could have ventured into the area of New Brunswick for numerous other resources besides butternut, such as grapes, as the area was a verdant landscape rich in natural resources, and thus far different from the sparseness of northern Newfoundland. Many of these resources would have been found growing along the banks of the several massive rivers like the Miramichi that penetrate inland among deciduous forests consisting mostly of oak and maple. At the time to the Norse, wine was considered a symbol of wealth and power, as grapes did not grow well in Scandinavian regions, so therefore all wine had to be imported from regions like present-day France. These imports were expensive, and only the elites of Norse society could afford it. For prominent Norsemen like Leif Erikson, a near limitless supply of grapes in a newly found land would have been of high interest. Most researchers consider it highly unlikely that the Norse ventured south of Vinland, because they theorize that if they had rounded Cape Breton and gone further south, they would have been exposed to vastly different terrain, and thus most certainly would have given the region a new land-based designation. Erik's saga mentions two Norse settlements in the New World, Stromfjord in the north and Hop located in the south. Stromfjord was described as a year-round base camp, while Hop was considered a summer camp where lumber and grapes were collected. Stromfjord is almost certainly Meadows due to the archaeology matching the descriptions in the sagas. During the summers in Stromfjord, the Norse would explore the region by ship and boat. A new biome would have greeted those that ventured to the southern part of the Gulf of St. Lawrence, characterized by warmer waters and lots of hardwood forests with plenty of animals. Researchers firmly believe Hop was most likely located on the New Brunswick shore of the Gulf. There are a variety of reasons why the Norse did not stay for long in Vinland, North America. One reason is that Greenland, the place where many of the Norse coming to North America came from, was not very firmly established itself. Even at their height, the settlements in Greenland made up no more than 2,000 people. Many Greenlanders also felt far away enough from friends and relatives back in the more populated areas of Iceland and Norway. From a starting point of Greenland, Vinland was as far away as Norway. Furthermore, Greenland also provided most of everything that its inhabitants needed, with the exception of flour, salt, and good lumber. Though lumber was almost certainly shipped out of Vinland, the Norse more than likely got this from Markland, as it's closer to Greenland. And though Vinland had such luxuries as grapes and walnuts that would have been very appealing to any Norse wanting to project prestige and power, Europe had many more essential food staples. Vinland was a backwater, while Europe remained an essential destination to visit for supplies. Conditions for travel in the Atlantic Ocean were incredibly dangerous, and surely caused many a ship to become lost at sea. At least one of these ships stumbled upon North America by accident. Since there was no accurate way to sail longitudinally at the time, making the southerly journey from Greenland to Vinland would have been much more perilous versus sailing latitudinally east from Greenland to Norway. Furthermore, exotic goods were required in order to trade with Europe. Many of the goods available in Vinland were already available in Europe, but goods like walrus, narwhal, and other sea mammal-based products, all of which were already available in Greenland, were desired by Europeans. The Norse sagas speak of several encounters with the native inhabitants of Markland and Vinland. The sagas refer to these people as skrælings, a word which may derive from the Old Norse word skra, which means dried skin. At the time of Norse settlement in Meadows, on the present-day island of Newfoundland, there were no Native Americans living there. However, they were there about a century before the Norse arrived and lived in the area sometime after the Norse left. However, the areas off eastern New Brunswick, that the Norse almost certainly ventured in for butternuts and probably also for grapes, was densely populated with Native Americans. These Native Americans are the ancestors of today's Mi'kmaq people. It is estimated that around 6,000 to 15,000 Native Americans lived in the general area of New Brunswick and the surrounding areas of what today are Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and the other islands in the Gulf of St. Lawrence. This suggests that it's probable that the Norse could have had some kind of contact with the Native Americans in New Brunswick during their trips there for butternut, grapes, and other resources. A Native American complex called Point Revenge has been excavated along many points of the central Labrador coast and dated to within the time frame of the 10th and 11th centuries when the Norse were in the area. Therefore, contact did conceivably occur between the Norse and the native inhabitants of Labrador. In all likelihood, the Norse would have encountered the ancestors of the Beothuk people, who would eventually come to live in the area of Vinland after Norse forays in the area had ceased and after the historical era of widespread European colonization had taken root. According to the sagas, the Native Americans greatly feared and admired Norse weapon technology. Norse weaponry was based on smelting iron. Swords, axes, and the tips of spears and arrows all had points and blades of iron. On the other hand, the main weapon of the historical Beothuk people was the bow and arrow, and thus this is what the Norse likely faced in their battles with them. Beothuk arrows were tipped with stone points created from quartz or flint. For fighting at mid-distance, spears and slings were used. For fighting at arm's length, clubs studded with beaver's teeth and stone shards were used. They didn't wear or carry any kind of protective gear, but they did cover their bodies and clothing with red ochre paint. Modern investigative work suggests that when the Norse traded their milk for indigenous fur, the indigenous people who drank the milk almost certainly began having gastrointestinal issues, due to much of the New World's people likely having lactose intolerance. It is hypothesized by researchers that the ancestors of the Beothuk may have immediately thought that the Norse had poisoned them, and this is possibly one of the reasons why conflict arose. Despite the incessant conflicts, researchers have found bits of copper associated with Norse metallurgy at various sites throughout the northeastern North American region, indicating that the material culture of the Norse may somehow have been disseminated to the indigenous people. Furthermore, there's an apparent strong possibility that the Norse and the Beothuk intermixed, as recent DNA study has shown that a small group of modern Icelanders have a strain of Native American DNA. Some Beothuk people may have even been captured as prisoners and taken to Iceland or Greenland, where they presumably mated with the Norse there. However, given that the Norse and the indigenous populations did not alter their lifestyles at all after their likely contacts, it is probable that contempt dominated the relationships between the two groups. The most consequential legacy of the indigenous people of the New World that encounter the Norse is that their resistance may likely have been the primary reason that discouraged any further Norse, and by extension European, colonization of the Americas. The archaeological site of Meadows, located in Newfoundland, dates to around 1021 AD and holds the only physical evidence of a Norse presence in North America. Therefore, any theories about the Norse in North America that researchers make always hinge upon the Meadows site. Estimates of the length of Norse habitation at the site range between 20 to 100 years, and it is not known for certain what the purpose of the settlement was, but the Norse left behind many artifacts at the site that could offer clues. 8 buildings have been excavated at the site. The buildings are either dwellings or workshops. The largest among them, referred to as Leader's Hall, is made up of multiple rooms. 2 buildings were conclusively identified as workshops for iron and carpentry, with the carpentry workshop indicating that it had the necessary tools to repair boats. The areas in and around the structures at Meadows lack many of the typical household items found at other Norse sites. Instead, one finds much evidence associated with specialized skills, such as ironmaking, smithing, carpentry, and boat repair. The structures could altogether hold around 70 to 90 people. The Vinland Sagas speak of social stratification in Norse society in Vinland. Likewise, the sizes and layouts of the structures are very suggestive of a stratified society. One finds large halls, which surely were inhabited by people of authority and importance, surrounded by smaller and humbler dwellings, which likely housed people of lower status. Researchers estimate that it would have taken 60 men 2 months, or 90 men 1.5 months, to build all of the structures of the settlement. As this is a significant expenditure of labor, it is not very likely that the labor force came from the same group of Norse who built the settlements in Greenland. Jasper stones used for starting fires that were concluded to have been of Greenlandic origin have been found in the largest hall. This bolsters the theory that the chief of the settlement was from Greenland. The Norse at the site did not establish any structures or features of their settlement that would enable it to be self-sustaining, as no farming was done at the site and there is no evidence that domesticated animals were kept there. The architecture of the buildings drew much inspiration from the styles in Iceland and northern Norway, which consisted of a timber frame that was filled in and covered in sod. 2 sizable structures containing multiple rooms were built at the site. Hall A had 4 rooms in a row, consisting of 1 small and 2 large rooms for sitting and sleeping. The large rooms were communal in nature, whereas the smaller ones were for the private privileges of a lord. Hall F was the largest building on site, consisting of 6 rooms. There were 3 sleeping rooms, as well as a kitchen with a stone oven and 2 large storage rooms. Jutting out from the eastern portion of the building was a shed made of wood and sod, where boat repair and construction was done. There was 1 private room and 2 communal rooms. The communal rooms had sleeping platforms along the walls, with a rectangular fire pit running along the center of the floor. The Norse slept in pairs on platforms on each side of the halls. Each hall could accommodate 60 to 78 individuals who were sleeping, while the outlying structures could house around 7 to 14 people. The settlement was very male-oriented, as carpentry, iron manufacture, and smithing were the primary activities. However, the discovery of spindles, needles, and pins suggests that women were there as well. Along with these artifacts, there have also been found stone tools associated with Native Americans, which highly suggests direct contact between the Norse and Native Americans. The halls were large and imposing structures that towered over the other buildings. Their size symbolically represented the authority of the Norse chieftains and their followers who dwelled in them. The Norse were likely in Newfoundland for only a few years, as evident from the minimal amount of refuse found at the site and the lack of any evidence that the buildings had been repaired in any way during their use. Abandonment of the site was likely done in a calm and orderly fashion due to the removal of all household artifacts. In August 2018, in a peat bog about 30 meters east of the Meadows site, evidence was unearthed that suggests that the Meadows site was habited by the Norse for about a century. Using a once-in-a-millennium cosmic ray event, which occurred in 993 AD, scientists were able to use the cosmic ray event's effect on trees as an anchor in their dating. Scientists looked at each artifact made of wood from the Meadows site. They then counted the tree rings until they got to the outer edges where the bark began. It was ultimately determined that the 3 trees that were used to make the wooden artifacts were cut down 28 years after the 993 AD cosmic event, giving one a 1021 AD date of Norse presence in Newfoundland. Recent research in the last few years has unearthed more evidence in support of an irrefutable 1021 AD date of habitation, but the exact date when the settlement started is still uncertain. The saga suggests that the Norse left Greenland for Vinland at around 1000 AD. If this is true, this would mean that the Meadows site was occupied for at least 20 years. Despite these recent developments, the true purpose of Meadows remains an open question. However, many researchers think that the evidence points towards the theory that the Norse may have used the settlement as a base for further exploration of North America, and/or for a base for the collection of luxury goods for European markets. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed my documentary, don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/World Chronicles.